Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to part 2 of the lecture number 18, that is the shelf life of food products. So in the part 1 of lecture number 18, I was discussing about the factors which affect the shelf life. So primarily there are two types of factors, intrinsic factors and extrinsic factors. So we were discussing about factors such as pH, moisture content, water activity. So I will be continuing from where I left. So I was discussing about the third factor, the intrinsic factor, which is the pH, hydrogen ion concentration. Factors affecting shelf life. Intrinsic factor, so let me again explain about this pH. So that is the hydrogen ion concentration. So if we take the microorganisms, it is classified into three categories based on these pH ranges. That is the microorganisms. I had mentioned this particular point in the previous slide also. Since this particular factor has to be discussed in detail, so this may be the initial portion may be a slight repetition of what I have discussed towards the end of the lecture in part 1, lecture number 18. So if you take the microorganisms and the pH, so this is acidophile. So these type of microorganisms, that is mostly it is acidic in nature. So it is in the range less than 6. Neutrophile, that is neutral. The pH is in the range 6 to 8. And alkalifile, this is alkaline nature. This is greater than 8. So I think I had stopped the previous lecture at this point. If we take the pH, if we compare the pH values of bacteria, mold or yeast, almost the pH of the mold and the yeast more or less in the same range, whereas bacteria can grow best when the pH is more or less, it is like it is neutral or weak alkaline in nature. So for the bacteria to grow, bacteria will grow if the pH in the range 6.5 to 7.5. This is mostly like a neutral value of pH, or we can say weak alkaline. For mold, the pH value is 1.5 to, let me write it clearly, let us not be 1.5 to 9.5. And for yeast to grow, the pH value is 1.5 to 8.5. More or less, the pH ranges of the mold and the yeast to grow is almost same. Examples of some food products with various pH values are, if you take vegetables, the pH is 3 to 6. If you take milk or fish, these type of items, the pH is 6 to 7. And for fruits, normally the pH is less than 5. So let us move to the next property, next factor, nutrient content. The presence of nutrient content, it also plays a major role in affecting the shelf life of the product. So the fourth factor is nutrient content. So this is the third one, pH is the third one, and fourth one is nutrient content. So the various nutrient contents in the food are carbohydrates, protein, minerals, vitamins, phosphorus, sulfur, water. So all these are required. All these are required for the metabolic functions. All these are all the various nutrient contents which are required for the metabolic functions. To carry out the metabolic functions. Especially the food products such as milk, meat, eggs, and etc. All these food products, they contain lot of nutrients. That is, let us take example, this milk, meat, eggs, etc. contains lot of nutrients. Let us move to the next factor, the salt and sugar content. I will use this portion. Salt and sugar content. So both these plays a major role in when it comes to impacting the shelf life of the food product. For example, if you take example pickle, it can be preserved by using the salt, which is present in it. So it is preserved by using salt. Similarly, if you take jam or jelly, these type of food items are preserved by the concentration of the sugar present in it. So these are preserved by the sugar concentration. So normally at homes, if you take the pickle is not normally, I mean, it does not require a, what do you say? It does not require, it can be preserved without having a controlled environment, without having a controlled environment. So these are all the 5 intrinsic factors. To summarize, the water activity, which is the amount of free water available for the microorganisms to grow. It is represented by the letter AW. The water activity level ranges from 0 to 1. It varies from 0 to 1. Next one is the moisture content. It differs from the water activity. Moisture content is the amount of water present in the food. It is expressed as the weight percentage. The moisture amount of water which is present in the food or the moisture content, it can affect the texture, the appearance, even the shape, color of the food product. Next one is the pH. We have seen the different pH ranges of the 3 types of microorganisms: acidophile, neutrophile, and alkaliophile. And what is the pH that is required for the bacteria to grow, yeast, mold, etc. Then when it comes to nutrient, lot of nutrients such as like carbohydrate, protein, water, vitamins, minerals, sulfur, phosphorus, etc. are required to carry out the metabolic functions. And the next one is the salt and the sugar content. Let us move to the extrinsic factors. This is also factors affecting shelf life. This is extrinsic factors. Extrinsic factors. First one is the storage temperature. That is the storage temperature. What I mean by mentioning the temperature is the temperature at which the food product or food item is stored. So it has a significant impact on the shelf life of the product. It has a significant impact on the shelf life of the product. So normally the low temperature does not eliminate the microbial growth completely. However, it can reduce the microbial growth. Reduces the microbial growth. Freezing prevents microbial growth. Doesn't mean that no microorganisms can grow. In spite of maintaining a product under this frozen condition, still some microorganisms grow. But some still grow. So when we have a low temperature, the low temperature can reduce the growth of microorganisms, and freezing prevents the microorganisms. But still, in some rare cases, in some food items, even if it is maintained under a frozen condition, there are some microorganisms still grow. So this is about the storage temperature. The second one is relative humidity. when we compare the intrinsic factor and the extrinsic factor, the intrinsic factors, as the name indicates, these are the factors primarily due to the internal. It is the internal factors. This is the extrinsic factors which, how does it impact the shelf life of the product externally. The second factor is relative humidity. Normally, the relative humidity is expressed as percentage. It differs from specific humidity. Specific humidity is the kg of moisture or grams of moisture present in kg or grams of dry air. If the numerator is in kg, the denominator also should be in kg. So, kg of moisture present in 1 kg of dry air, that is the specific humidity. Relative humidity is expressed as percentage. It is not expressed as kg per kg of dry air. So, normally it is expressed as percentage. When we have high humidity, suppose if the environment has high humidity, promotes microbial growth. Low humidity prevents microbial growth. But again, like freezing, like in case of freezing, it does not prevent or eliminate completely, but still some microorganisms grow. Prevents microbial growth. But some microorganisms still grow. Let us move to the third one. Exposure to sunlight. Exposure to sunlight. Some food products, when it is exposed to sunlight, due to this ultraviolet rays or infrared radiations, due to UV, infrared, some chemical changes occurs in the food products, because of which the quality is affected. So this affects the food quality due to chemical changes when it is exposed to sunlight. When it is exposed to sunlight. So due to the presence of ultraviolet rays, infrared radiation, so the chemical changes occurs in some food items, because of which its quality gets deteriorated. The fourth one is packaging. This is extrinsic factors continued. So the fourth factor is packaging. The presence of gases inside the packaging material, I mean, when the food products are packed in the environment, when we are using the packaging materials or whatever it is, the presence of gases present inside the packaging, it impacts the shelf life of the food product. impact the shelf life of the food product. For example, if we have oxygen, due to the oxidation reaction, it promotes microbial growth. Microbial growth due to oxidation reaction. Whereas carbon dioxide prevents microbial growth. So in the fifth module, we will be studying about the packaging, the controlled atmosphere packaging, modified atmosphere packaging in detail. So the presence of gases plays a major role in affecting the shelf life of the food product. The last factor, extrinsic factor, is processing and preservation method. Processing and preservation method. Processing and preservation method. So the methods which are employed for processing of the food product or the preservation of food product also it plays a major role in affecting the shelf life of the product. So like methods, for example, it is like refrigeration. Different methods are refrigeration, heat treatment process, freezing, drying, etc. These are some of the processing and preservation methods. So to summarize the extrinsic factors, there are primarily 5 factors which affect the shelf life. One is the storage temperature, the temperature at which the food product is stored. Second one is the relative humidity. The relative humidity is expressed as percentage. It differs from the specific humidity. Exposure, what happens when the food product is exposed to sunlight due to the presence of UV, IR radiations. The chemical changes occurs because of which the food quality is affected. Packaging, the presence of gases inside the packaging material plays a role. Oxygen, if oxygen is there, then it promotes the microbial growth, whereas CO2 reduces or prevent microbial growth. And the various processing and preservation methods also one of the factor which affects the shelf life of the food product. Let us move to one small numerical question before I conclude this lecture. A very small numerical question. Calculate the water activity of frozen bread at minus 10 degrees centigrade. Water activity is the first intrinsic property factor which we have seen under the topic factors affecting the shelf life. This is represented by the letter AW. So the temperature is given. It's a very small numerical question. Temperature is given as minus 10 degrees centigrade. You have to find out water activity. There is a empirical relation which I will be using to solve this question. So ln of AW equal to, there's a ln of AW is equal to 0.009969. 0.00969 into temperature. So substitute the temperature is given 0.00969 into minus 10. Let me. So we'll get this when we substitute these values, and solving the water activity comes to 0.91. 0.91. The water activity range is from 0 to 1. So it cannot be less than 0 or greater than 1 for any of the food product. Let me conclude at this point. Thank you.